Greetings YouTube. Today I'm going to be reviewing the CRKT Ikoma Carajas, a name I am probably butchering. Product of China, and this is code 5340. Came with some literature. And here's the question, the knife in question. This is a G10 scales. It's a pure flipper. It has a ball bearing system built into it. It has some extensive jimping here, which is on the semi-open construction because you actually can get through there, but the rest of the thing is sealed. It has a single position tip up carry clip, and again in the 21st century I think single position clips are an abomination. It has a small lanyard hole, and the amount of distance between the edge of that hole and here is not very thick. Now I'm sure it would be fine for your average use of a lanyard, but that's just not very thick. I found that a little bit worrying, but I understand why they did it, because they had to make sure it gave you clearance for the knife edge itself, so you wouldn't cut whatever you put through the hole. And it is a tight side. I don't think you could get 550 paracord through there, though you might be able to get a piece through there if it was empty. You take the core out. Star drive bits all the way around, screws all the way around, which is nice. I like those. I prefer them to hexes or even to Phillips. We have some jimping here, and it is a little bit on the sharp side as far as the jimping is concerned, the edges here. There is some jimping on the liner lock, and it is very nicely rounded. So I wish that had been the jimping they put here. Yes, it wouldn't have been quite as an aggressive grip provided by it, but let's face it, this is a light duty knife. So here we go. Now, what attracted me to this knife was the ball bearing system, which is, yeah, the little logo for the ball bearing system is right there on the knife at that gear section with the little arrows that point. And what attracted me was the swedge, which is quite nice. It's quite sexy. This shape, which is also very nice. These holes in here, and the overall curves. I just happen to really like the overall design aesthetic to it. It is comfortable, and if you want to go up high with your thumb, that fits quite nicely in there. Or if you want to do that, again, it fits quite nicely in there. If you want to do like a scalpel position with this, it is quite comfortable in a gives you a full 4-finger grip. Of course, you're more likely to be holding it like this, which is where the jimping hint comes into effect. And it's not, like I said, it's a little more aggressive than I think it needs to be, but it's not going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form. As far as roughness goes, the part that concerns me is this whole, all these scales, this wonderful machining I put in there, I think they should have tumbled them. This is too sharp to my mind. I find it uncomfortable against my palm, and more importantly, when drawing this knife in and out of my pocket, this machining here on the G10 scales dragged on the pocket something fierce, both going in and coming out. It was just really annoying. The clip itself was fine. I kind of like this little wider design that he came up with here, and it is a nice slim knife. You can see it isn't particularly thick. It isn't a particularly heavy knife. And we're in at 86 grams, so yeah, not a particularly heavy knife. Now, my big critique of this, other than the scales, is that I don't know if it's because of the position of the flipper, or the weight of the blade, or maybe it's a fault in this particular knife's bearing, but I don't find it all that easy to deploy. Now, that just makes it, if I use the amount of force I normally would do, and I've actually had it come out of my pocket, and I've gone to flip it, and it hasn't deployed all the way, because now it's not going to do it for me, because I've had it do that, which I can snap open, which isn't a problem. But I'm used to the other two knives I have like this. I have the CRKT Ripple, which is right here, and this one, it flies out. It pops. It is a really nice motion. Just boom, and it's gone. And the other bearing system I have is here. This is the Kershaw strobe. And again, it just flies out. Now, I'm not sure why that is. Like I said, is it the bearings on this particular knife? Is it the detent on the blade that maybe the detent on the blade is too soft? So the amount of pressure being put on the blade by the ball bearing on the there's going to be there's a ball bearing here on the liner that is a small detent in the blade which holds it in place so it doesn't pop open on you. Maybe it's not firm enough so that I overcome it so easily that I'm not putting enough force, whereas in the other two knives I just showed you, it takes a little extra effort to overcome that detention in that little recess in the blade that it just flies out for me. I'm not sure. But of the two CRKT knives I have that are flippers that have the ball bearing system, I much prefer the Ripple, even though the Ripple is noticeably heavier because it's got aluminum scales. And I prefer the strobe to that, which is it's even heavier than the Ripple is because it's a bigger knife with 3D contoured scales, G10s. Because it comes out so nicely. Also because it's so much more comfortable in my hand because of the scales, and it doesn't drag on my pocket because this scaling in here is much more gentle. So I like the lines of this knife, I really do. And there are people out there and that's going to be more important to them than anything, so they're going to overlook the scales. They may overlook the fact that the flipper, there you go, that just did it. It didn't engage. There. That's annoying and potentially harmful to you if you don't catch it and you go to cut something or you bump that blade and it closes on your fingers. So I can't give 100% recommendation to this particular knife that I'm holding in my hands. I'm not saying this is endemic to the entire line of this knife. This just could be mine. And it's not enough of a deal breaker for me to return it, because especially seeing as I have the Ripple, even though the Ripple has the tip down carry, which I despise. And I'll be honest with you, this strobe has been my go-to carry knife now for quite a while. I really happen to love this knife, at least at the time of the filming of this video. So it's a really attractive knife. It's a very reasonably priced knife. I don't remember what I paid for this. I think it was like in the $40 range. And I think the people who like CRKT blades and like ball bearing pivots should very much check it out. But be aware that these scales are sharp and it doesn't deploy as quickly and as smoothly as I think it should.